Welcome back to another video. All right, listen, if you guys haven't watched my last couple videos, I highly suggest go watching that, especially for the end of Gym Journey. All right, Gym Journey is ending, so go watch that video. I explain all the details over there, but like I said, in that video, I want to do other stuff, it kind of stuff that's on my head. So today I want to talk about adapting, and are you guys good at it, bad at it, or do you not even know what that means? So when I think of adapting, it's twofold, right? Like, obviously the simple thing is like, I take you, put you somewhere else, you figure it out, bada bing, bada boom, right? But there's also the other side of that, and that's where you realize you failed to adapt and you didn't figure it out. Okay? I'm gonna give you a little bit of story time. I got two scenarios. Okay? The first time I was in the Army, and I was in Alpha Company. Alright, mind you, when I got to Alpha Company, they were already deployed. So there was a lot of what we call Rear D. And in Rear D, it's basically all the people that are either getting out of the Army, they're injured, or what we call them profiles. And, you know, you had a bunch of, they called them rejects, but ideally it was either that or it was a bunch of new people, new privates coming in, or I don't want to say privates because people could come in at different levels, but basically new soldiers, right? And so you had this mixed bag of everything. You had, because you also had some studs, because people that were going to like Ranger School, you know, they would come back to the, you know, the Rear D and be part of the unit because they were over in Ranger School or something. So you had a bunch of mixed people, but it was smaller. You had a bunch of different mixed people, but it was smaller, right? So you had the people trying to get out, or people that were injured, or the people, you know, so you had a lot of different personalities, right? So, you know, obviously me going to the Army, I adapted to that. Obviously I passed my, you know, basic training, and I got past my AIT, and then I got into Alpha Company. And I spent the next 6-7 months with those group of people, and then all of a sudden, boom, here comes the unit back. And now I gotta adapt to all these different people. And so as I was going through that, you know, yeah, did I adapt to the people there and the new people that came from the company? Absolutely. But I will also say that I didn't adapt to the Army. And I will admit that, like, I probably wasn't the best of soldiers. I wouldn't say disrespectful. I'm just saying in general, like, you know, like if there was a, you know, if you were to give me a rating of a soldier, you know, I'm probably 60, 70s. You know what I mean? Like, it was just because at the time, like, I didn't really care to adapt to the physical part of it. Like, you know, I had in my head that I was a 92 Yankee. A 92 Yankee is basically a supply. You know, when you think about going to the store and getting supplies, that's what I was, right? I had an office, and I had a bunch of supplies that I would hand out to the unit. But I also had equipment that was part of the company, that was tied to the company. So I had to manage that as well. So I thought that I was, you know, supposed to be part of that part, you know, that group. Obviously, you know, I don't want to say misled, but, you know, obviously, you know, I was part of an infantry unit, so I had to do all their stuff too. And it's like, well, there would be times where we got to miss PT, or we got to miss stuff because we had to go do 92 Yankee stuff. So I thought that was very important, especially, bro, we talking millions of dollars of stuff that I had to manage. And you're getting mad at me because, you know, like, I had to skip out on PT one day. Like, bro, like, I couldn't adapt to that. Like, it wasn't preached down from the higher up of 92 Yankees, right? Like, you know, it was so in tune to us when we went to AIT. It was all about our equipment and making sure that we knew what was what and everything like that. So, you know, with that being said, you know, a couple months go by, and obviously, like, I'm struggling with PT. I couldn't adapt to it, you know, like, again, I had a sergeant who was my supply sergeant who came back with the company. He was cool as shit, but he was getting out, so his energy for PT and all that stuff wasn't there either. Like, he didn't have to do PT. You know, he did the bare minimum because he was 16 years in. He had a bunch of stuff going on with him. He was getting out. So he wasn't really like into that shit. You know what I mean? So my thing is I just couldn't adapt to it. And you know, you're gonna say, well, that was the environment. I can't blame the environment. I have to put some of the blame. Yes, some of the blame is my environment, and some of the blame is, you know, myself. And what I say to that is, we'll get into this later, but you have to be able to recognize when you're not adapting to something, and whether to cut ties or to fix yourself. So with that being said, let's go into the second part of the story. So now the second part of this story is I then end up getting transferred to Charlie Company. Mind you, Alpha Company was kind of stacked. All right. They had a good first sergeant. They had a good commander. They had a good XO. They had, it was a solid group. And I think at the time I remember, they were the most energetic, high speed company. And I was transferring to a more stricter company, okay? And obviously having that loosey-goosey fun time over there in Alpha Company coming to the strict Charlie Company, it definitely punched me in the gut. And so I had to adapt very quickly because there was a lot of people in that company that were like, like serious. And again, I've said this before, but I am a serious person. And I like to make light of seriousness because I understand how stressful it can be. And so when I got to Charlie Company, it was definitely a struggle for me. And I remember this one instance where we go to NTC, which is a training in California. And listen to this, Joker, right? The company leaves one of the generators back. So mind you, they're small generators, right? I think we had 3. And we left one of them back at the base where we left. So basically it's called a fob, and it's like a pretend fob in, you know, the base, and then you go out into the field, and we left it there. And the first sergeant was mad as shit, and it was hilarious to me because it's NTC. It's supposed to be training. So in my head I was thinking, like, why is this so fucking, like, I get why it's serious, but it's practice, it's training. Right? We need to be able to make mistakes so that way we learn not to make mistakes. Make the mistake, understand the mistake. Let's come up with a solution in the moment, because in the middle of a gunfight, you're not going to start fucking yelling at me and start like, do push-ups. Like, bro, you'd be like, yo, fucking lock in. He's fucking dead. Let's move on to the mission, right? That's what you would do. But they were mad as fuck, yelling at everybody, raging and trying to figure it out. You know what's funny is the first sergeant knew somebody at the fob, and the guy brought it out. And it's like, bro, like, that should have been a fucking, like, that should have been a, let's pull the people in who made the mistake, yell at them in fucking private, and then give them, like, yo, but, like, this is why it's important, and go over it. But they didn't do that. It was just, they were mad as fuck because, you know, no one fucking wants to be in the middle of the fucking desert getting yelled at. So, anyways, that shit, I did not fucking adapt to that shit at all when it came to the first sergeant and the commander, because again, they were so fucking serious on everything that it was like stressing me the fuck out. And so basically, you know, like, I eventually, to my point, right, I eventually just decided that I'm gonna get out of the Army. And so that's what I mean by adapting, right? Like, I adapted to some extent, but to the entire thing, I did not adapt. Because should I have gotten that serious about the first sergeant and stuff? No, shouldn't be that big deal. So I say that to you guys. I want to tell you guys those stories because, you know, you may think that you're adapting. In reality, you're not adapting. So did I adapt to being in the Army? Yes. But did I fully embrace myself, or, yeah, whatever, into the Army? I did not. Because I did not fully adapt to what I was doing at the time. And I've learned from that, and I've realized that there's things that I do, and I pause before I go to do things, or I pause before I go to leave something. Have I fully adapted to this situation to make the decision whether to leave or to stay? Because if I haven't, then I need to probably figure out if I'm doing something wrong so I can fix it. Let me know in the comments below what y'all think about that. Let me know if you think you adapt. Let me know if you struggle to adapt. I'll see you guys on the next one.